I have literally stalked people to say ki why they need to join my organization. I have known people 6 months before they joined the organization. इतना sell किया हूँ मैं कि you know why they need to come.
एक किसी को हॉस्पिटल खोलना है तो उसको कितना पैसा लगता है खोलने में?
I don't have an answer to that. It has a lot of different. एक simple सा question था ही नहीं वो. I had written about stuff where in the first 2 years of my son's life I missed because I was so busy building up. I know I really missed all of those things, right? Then I wrote about it to say that, you know, he won't remember, but because I also don't remember about all those things. इतना busy था मैं.
खुद फंडिंग उठाने से अब खुद फंडिंग करने तक, इंडिया की वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट मैटरनिटी चेन चलाने तक, मस्त मौला इंसान, फाउंडर टर्न्ड इन्वेस्टर, वीसी रोहित भैया की हम बात कर रहे हैं, जिसका एकदम कंसेप्ट क्लियर है, जिन्होंने 1 दशक हो गए हैं धंधा करते हुए. उनके इनसाइट्स को समझेंगे, उनके बिजनेस लर्निंग्स को समझेंगे इस ऑनेस्टी के पॉडकास्ट में, इस सीरीज में. सो वेलकम एंड लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड. सो थैंक यू सो मच रोहित भैया फॉर स्पेयरिंग टाइम एंड कमिंग टू अस इन दिस पॉडकास्ट. सो ऑनेस्टी एक पॉडकास्ट हम लोग करते हैं जिसमें हम लोग सारे व्यापारियों को, सारे एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को बुलाते हैं और उनसे जानने की कोशिश करते हैं कि जितनी उनकी लर्निंग रही है अभी तक, वो वाना बी एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के लिए क्या हेल्प रह सकती है. तो वो चीज़ तो हम स्टार्ट करेंगे. आपके एक थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड जान जाए कि आपकी लाइफ क्या थी पहले, कैसे आप रहते थे, क्या था, फैमिली क्या है, कहाँ से आपने पढ़ाई की है.
Yeah, awesome. No, happy to be here. And you're calling me Baya, so it kind of makes me old already. But itna bhi old nahi hu main. So basically from Bangalore, my grandfather was working in HL. My father was working with Canara Bank. My growing up years were all, looking at how my dad left his bank job to go and set up a business of his own. So उनका खुद का business इन्होंने create किया था early 90s में. So I was about 10 years old. I'm an 81 born. So मेरा all growing up years was to try and go to dad's office, understand वो क्या कर रहे थे. I'm saying understand, but obviously did not understand. But grew up in a very ambitious environment. My mother was an artist. So she used to conduct a lot of classes. She used to make her own artwork and all that. So we've grown about and we spoke about it about, creativity, right? So aajkal to like, if we think of anything, any electronics, we can find it online. We'll find references and all of that. Pehle, and it was pretty expensive. So if you have to decide on buying something, ye aap catalog dekh ke you can't buy, right? Fir bhi khareed lete the log. But then we came upon this idea to say that can we have an exclusive center where we are able to showcase some of these very exclusive products. Okay. Because that aspirational interest was, coming up really nicely. So it was like a random ki chalo try karke dekhte sort of thing, right? So aise hua tha. And it turned out to be really nice. It's unlike the Bangalore that you know now. So tab to Whitefield se bhi Jayanagar aa sakte the. And people from all over the city came to kind of look at those exclusive products that they can touch, feel, understand, sit around and see that, okay, how will it fit in their living room and stuff, right? So you may laugh, but like a 54-inch TV was like a really big deal at that time, right? Like abhi to it's like, I mean 55-inch everybody has.
It will be a very big deal.
It will be very big deal. And without seeing what it means, and obviously LED wo sab tha hi nahi. This was all CRT, so the TVs were still like pretty big. Ek showroom, we had created a retail showroom where these products, so 3 ही brand थे तब, Sony, Philips and Onkyo, एक Japanese brand था, which doesn't sell in India anymore. So it was an exclusive showroom. We had like SKUs where maybe 20 products, that's it, right? But nobody in Bangalore would have it. We would be the only ones to have it. So
who funded
it was very
you?
Exclusive.
Who funded you for this?
यार खुद का किया था हमने. See, in this, right, and these are all things you learn about business, right? When you look at something like this, you have to figure out, okay, what is the capital expenditure going towards, right? कि कितना पैसा चाहिए? You needed some for setting up the space, but everything else you were getting on credit. The actual products you were actually getting it on credit. Okay. So you didn't have to fund them and वहाँ पे खड़ा करके, and you don't know if somebody's going to buy it or not. So we had this exclusive arrangement because we were only working with 3 brands and we said we are the only ones who will have it. They were happy to keep their products there. Okay. So for all of them, we became exclusive dealers and exclusive एक की जगह पे वो मिल रहा था, right? So at least from a stock keeping point of view, you didn't have to like fund for some of those things. So as soon as somebody comes and buys it, you are able to make that money upfront and then you fund for the credit period, right? So some of these things, again, you know, I'm a graduate of Bangalore, and you know, thabbi they don't teach you some of these things to say, you know, how do you manage some of these things? Obviously, they teach you a lot of stuff, right? But when you run a business, you kind of understand these intricacies, right? Ki end of the month, making sure that you have enough cash in the bank to kind of pay salaries, right? Ye P&L mein ek item aata hai, but how do you get to that item is the most important, right? So these things you kind of learn. So back then I was also pursuing my computer science engineering. So I had no clue कि मैं इतना सारा क्यों कर रहा हूँ. Obviously I had help. I had help from dad. I had help from an uncle. I had help from my brother. But we still had to kind of do it, grudge it out and all of those things, right? But the beauty is you learn the intricacies of how businesses are run, right? So that was my first business. So finished computer science engineering, ended up with a gold medal. Don't ask me how. So उसके बाद because I got a gold medal, I said कि थोड़ा कुछ तो करेंगे, चलो. So went and worked for a very brief while in Intel, and then worked with SAP. Okay. पूरा 2 साल वहाँ पे. Got to work with some amazing companies. So SAP is a ERP product which very large companies kind of deploy. So back then in India, there were some very household names like Kulhad Mattresses, UB Exports, Sanmar Group, Orissa Mining Corporation, Kulhad Mattresses. In सबका implementation करने के लिए I got an opportunity to be a part of that implementation project team. बहुत मजा आया उसमें, because again, as someone who's still getting his ideas shaped and molded, when you go and sit in large enterprises, your ability to kind of consume all of that, right? And we were talking about it a little before. When you get exposed to something like that, you get exposed to big thinking. Yes. Right? Again, I was not sure कि मैं करूँगा क्या इसके बारे में, but I was genuinely excited. You know, and these are all, you are sitting on the shop floor, you're sitting in the factory, you are working with the actual process owners to understand, because SAP mein hota kya, you have to map their entire process into the system. So when you do that, you're understanding what the users are actually, you know, what are they thinking and all that, right? ये design thinking ये सब अभी marketing terms जो है वो सब पहले था, right? But terminology नहीं था, लेकिन लोग करते समझते थे, कोई बात नहीं कर रहा था उसके बारे में. But when you actually go there and you realize, right, it was automatically there, right? So got exposed to a lot of these things, and करते then I said कि बहुत हो गया यार, I need to be an entrepreneur. So came back to Bangalore. Showroom तो वो engineering के बाद ही खत्म कर दिया था हमने, because by then organized retail came in and all that. Like चलो यार छोड़ देते. Interestingly, that became I think the 6th or 7th outlet of Cafe Coffee Day. अभी भी है. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because like you, Coffee Day were like, you know, like growing really big at that time. So this was 2003. So they really liked the locations. We're like, you know, we want this location. So it ran for 4 years. From around 4 years. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Around 4 years. Okay. So बहुत मजा आया. So now I can obviously tell you stories about it. Back then it was very tough to kind of, you know, study as well as do this and all that. So it's like whatever free time you have, you're putting it into that, right? It was as important as that. पढ़ाई से ज़्यादा मजा आता था क्या भैया उसमें? बहुत मजा आता था. पढ़ाई यार, I mean engineering, again, please don't hate me for this, but engineering यार, I don't know what engineering skill I've used till date. इतना खून पसीना बहा के, you know, we studied. Not for it. Please persevere engineering. Don't hold me wrong for this. But no, I think it's about the principles, right? So you enjoy the principles, but beyond that, like again in computer science engineering, I learned C, C#, C++ and all that. कौन use करता है entrepreneurship में? So immediately after that, when you get placed on the job, it's about trying to figure out what that company wants and how do you kind of build from there, right? So it's possibly about the principles, and you know, I enjoyed engineering as well, but I think reality is far different from what we study in curriculum. So thanks for being vocal for it. Yeah, not in a bad way. Please pursue your engineering. Please don't drop out. Okay. And so finished all of that. 2005, again decided to be an entrepreneur. Started up in the F&B space, right? Closer to you. Okay. That's even more interesting. Now I'm paying more attention. This was So there was a very, very popular brand of a pub in Bangalore called Purple Haze.
Okay.
You guys won't know.
And this was which year?
2005.
Okay.
It was there before itself.
Mhm.
I joined them in 2005 and I had
Okay.
the opportunity to kind of, help them grow the brand, help them scale to different locations and stuff. बहुत मजा आया उसमें to scale up something like this, right? And that brand was very, very popular. And you ask anybody who's grown up in those times in Bangalore, they'll have the fondest recall of what that brand stood for. So I had the opportunity to apply all my sort of thoughts and philosophies to say, how do you grow some of these things? In the process, learned quite a bit again, right? So I was very excited and I was continuing to build this when in 2006, the Cloudnine discussion started.
Okay.
So
while doing this F&B business?
I was still doing the F&B business. Okay. And mera family mein, everyone on my mom's side is a doctor.
Okay.
My chacha, mama, dada, pardada, everybody is a doctor.
Okay.
So one of my maternal uncles, mama, chacha, what do you call them?
Maternal uncle will understand. Mama.
Mama. Actually, nahi. Chacha, whatever.
Okay.
Maternal uncle. He's a very, very decorated physician.
Okay. Okay.
He's a neonatologist. So he and my aunt decided to come back to India. They were always abroad and set up something in the mother and child space, right? So it was originally their idea to kind of, come do something here and, figure out कि इसमें play क्या रहेगा. I was just drafted in to say कि यार ये थोड़ा business चलाता है. Let's see if we can put stuff together. मैंने भी सोचा कि हाँ चलो एक साल करके देखते हैं कि होगा क्या. I had already signed up for B school in said business school in Oxford. मतलब कि चलो profile पे तो अच्छा ही दिखेगा. And I said कि चलो I'll help you.
Profile में तो अच्छा दिखेगा.
हाँ, honestly, right? So that was the motivation. But यार, there was so much to do. Because कभी किसी ने किया नहीं था, right? So like in your business, if someone's not done the way that you are kind of scaling the business, then it's very tough. You have to go figure out so many things on your own कि customer कहाँ से आएगा, कौन कैसा कितना पैसा देगा, हमारे बिजनेस में अभी डॉक्टर कैसे लेके आएंगे, right? What do they want to do? तो बहुत कुछ had to be drawn from the, from drawing it on the paper to figuring out how do you kind of implement and all of that. Obviously, having a great founding team helped, right? So I think my learning was extremely satisfying during the early days to kind of understand how some of these things happen. And for all of us, the common binding factor was the passion. कि ये तो हमें करना ही है, right? So that's what was the prime motivation. Business model कैसे बैठेगा, क्या होगा, all of those things. I mean, now it's all fit, right? But then it was like to say कि हमें करना है, right? So that was a sheer passion and motivation. We know that there's a gap and we want to go after it, right? Okay. Today, the entire model has been diced and sliced to kind of become a cookie cutter. जैसे कि आपका, like you said, you have like so many different outlets. You have to have processes in place to make sure that the first one to the 1,000th one is the same, right? So how do you kind of build that? All that happened later. But pehla wala was to say that, hey, the first one we do, we have to figure out a lot of these aspects, right? So I'll ask you a question. You tell me, हमारे देश में हर एक मिनट में कितने बच्चे पैदा होते हैं?
I don't know.
Guess.
I don't have any idea. Maybe in a couple of lakhs.
हर मिनट में?
हर मिनट में?
हाँ,
oh
भाई क्या करेगा?
I don't know. In thousands maybe?
No.
No?
No. You have a very different India in your mind. It's 51. Already we are what we are. So 51 babies are born every minute.
51 babies every single minute.
Every single minute.
Okay.
Which is, we are, gold medal holders in this to the rest of the world. So that is a huge number, which means 2.2 million babies are born every month in our country, which is like in half a year, we generate like one European country, right? So that's the massive scale that our country is at, right?
Okay.
So,
and you were aware about the data when you were starting? No,
it was just
dived into
dive maro, get it.
करके देख लो.
करके देख लो, right? So we had one data though. One data was कि Bangalore में कितने बच्चे पैदा हो रहे हैं, right? So Bangalore में था, that time it was about 400 babies every day.
Okay.
400 babies was across everything, government hospital, private hospital, nursing home, sab jagah mila ke, right? So for our business model to succeed, we just needed 1% और 4 बच्चे चाहिए थे बस हर एक दिन में to be born at our outlet, right? So when you create a model of that nature, so it's 1% of what the market is. So the kind of say कि हाँ ठीक है यार वो हो सकता है, right? We had assumed कि ये when I put the plan out also to say कि ये 4 साल में बैठेगा and all that, right? For to hit that number.
ROI.
No, to hit sustenance.
Okay.
4 बच्चे per day, we'll try and hit that number in about 4 years time is what we thought.
Okay.
But things worked really well, and within a year we were able to achieve that number, right?
Okay.
So within a year we had like 4 babies a day, which means the business model started proving itself. So we were EBITDA positive, so we started hitting sustenance numbers, right? So suddenly we thought ki acha, there's something happening here, right? People want this, right? So the idea entirely, and whenever you decide to have a baby, please have it at Cloudnine. You will know कि all our customers, the majority of them, कुल मिलके say like 80% of our customers today, right? All the couples, they've never been to a hospital before.
Okay.
Because of the age, right? You wouldn't have had a health experience because you're at that age where you probably wouldn't have gone to a hospital. So we didn't want to change anything about that.
Okay.
So you won't see like when you go to a Cloudnine, you won't see a big plus sign. You won't see वो दवाई का दुकान
जो scary लगता है थोड़ा सा
exactly,
right? Hospital vibe नहीं रहेगी,
कुछ नहीं रहेगा. You will have like a fantastic hotel sort of vibe. Okay. You will have, and we are only about mother and child, right? So what will happen is you will see very like-minded people. Kids will be running around. There are pregnant moms around. There are anxious fathers around. So it's all the same sort of mindset. Unlike going to another hospital where somebody is thinking कि मैं कल will I be zinda or not, right? It's a very different mind space, right?
Yes.
तो उसमें आप कितना भी जानबीन कर लो, right? You will not be able to give the kind of experience that you want. So this was the first principle thinking to say कि यार our space has to be very different. It will only be for this, right? So this was something nobody had done before, and we said कि चलो we will try it and do it, right? So now we are the largest. We have 30 locations in 14 cities. By far the market leader, and continue to do really, really well. We now deliver over 2,500 babies a month.
Wow.
And it's hugely satisfying, right? From what we started in 2006-07, now after 16-17 years to be able to sit here and talk about something like this. And we are a public ready company, so bootstrapped, बहुत सारा loan उठाया मैंने. Then came the equity run. Have fantastic investors in us. We raised money from Matrix, Sequoia, True North, TPG, and now Temasek as well, right? So in midst of all of this, decided to make the company a public company. We haven't gone ahead and listed, but hopefully in 2 years' time, we'll kind of do that. So it's been a massive journey.
Wow. Amazing to hear this. So when somebody starts an entrepreneurship, तो उनको ना टीम लगती है बनाने के लिए. जब आपने Cloudnine स्टार्ट किया होगा, so आपको भी टीम लगी होगी. तो टीम बिल्डिंग में सबसे ज्यादा चैलेंजेस क्या आते हैं, और कैसे, मतलब बहुत सारे इनिशियल चैलेंजेस क्या आते हैं जो अपने को हमेशा कोई भी एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप आप करें, आपने तो मल्टीपल किया है.
यार टीम में एक ही चीज होता है ट्रस्ट, राइट? You have to trust in each other's abilities.
Okay.
Sometimes those abilities are up there and visible right from the word go. Sometimes these abilities have to be discovered.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I think in a founding team, this has to be very sacrosanct. Ki you are able to depend on each other, rise or shine. Right? Ki jo kuch bhi ho, on a good day, on a bad day, you need to be able to depend on each other. So I think that is what is the most important. Mere ख्याल से, like, I have not done anything where I've done something alone. So I don't know. I mean, hats off to a lot of entrepreneurs who kind of do stuff alone, right? I think they're much braver than most other entrepreneurs. I've always had the luxury of having a founding team. Even now at Peer Capital, I have 2 other founders who are fantastic, right? It just helps so much that you're able to depend and, collaborate and co-create some of these things. A lot of people kind of miss out on some of these aspects, right? But it all comes from trust. पहला चीज जो होना चाहिए, you know the ability of each other, but the most important thing is trust.
Okay. So, ये जो अपना challenges और क्या challenges रहे होंगे बीच में apart from एक आपने तो बताया कि अपने को trust होना चाहिए जब भी अपन hire करें किसी को या फिर team build करते हैं.
Yeah.
What are the challenges you face initially when you start something?
Yeah. So look, challenges continue to happen.
Yes.
As when
It is
you
bound to
start,
happen.
yeah, when you start, when you scale, when you grow, all of those things, right? But I think the most important thing is to try and align everybody towards what is the vision. Ki, you know, what is the sort of company that we are building? What is the sort of culture we are building, right? See, ability ka assessment ho jata hai. We have enough processes to understand what is his or her ability and you kind of give them an opportunity to join the organization basis that. वहां से शुरू होता है to understand कि, you know, what do they need to do to kind of deliver on the vision that the founders have, right? I think translating that by, you know, behaving that way yourself, translating that by creating great spokesperson within the organization, right, who imbibe that sort of a vision, I think that's the most challenging. बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं who will come, just do their work and go,
yes,
right, which is also good. But there has to be others who will be evangelizers, who will talk about what is the larger outcome that is possible in something like this, right? So वो करना बहुत important है. So you should always look for entrepreneurial traits within, you know, people that you kind of hire. It can work both ways. Entrepreneur, obviously they'll have ambitions of their own. So how do you kind of nurture that and get the best out of them while they continue to deliver at your organization before they go and try and do something on their own? And the good ones are like, you know, they continue to grow within the organization and help the organization grow, right? So dono hote hai. So I have been like, you know, I don't know what they will think when I tell this. I have literally stalked people to say ki why they need to join my organization, right? Ki some of the CXOs who are here today at Cloudnine, I have known people 6 months before they joined the organization. Itna sell kiya hu main ki, you know, why they need to come. And it's worked really well because especially in healthcare, lot of in terms, you know, the managerial strength, right? I've always found that it is always better coming from an outside in perspective. So if you're not from this healthcare domain, probably you have a different perspective and can we use that perspective really well, right? Like in your business, this is not something that you knew ki main paida ye karunga, right? You bring a very different perspective and that's when we change the agenda, right? If everybody knew what you're supposed to do, then that will actually become status quo. How do you disrupt, right? So even from the team perspective, I always kept thinking ki alag industry se leke aate hain, right? To give that entire twist a very different dimension. That's really helped. Because then, you know, they are not...
This is a very important point.
They are not enamored ki yaar healthcare business mein aa rahe hai. I don't know anything about healthcare. The first thing I do is to tell them that, listen, you just behave ki, you know, if you had to go through this experience, what would you need to do, right? Just
feel independent.
Just that, right? If you are feeling empowered, you're feeling independent, what would you do, right? That's what is important. So then it's just to believe in people, yaar, ki they will do the best thing possible, right? So I've been extremely lucky to have like a fantastic team from the very top to, you know, someone who's joined yesterday. Blessed to have like a great team, you know, who continue to deliver on the vision, right? So it's about trying to do this in as many repeatable forms as possible, right? Like whoever we are, how do we behave? How do we demonstrate? What do we do with, you know, when we are faced with a tough situation, how do we handle it, right? How do we overcome a lot of these things? Have like a silent storytelling across all the team members. How do you encourage that to be transferred across to their sort of subordinates and stuff, right? So how do you do this, you know, linearly as well as, you know, how do you help them compound, right? ये करना बहुत ही important है.
So liberty, thoughts की liberty देना कि think according to you and place your idea on the table. We'll look into it.
You have to. And see, in a growing organization, गलतियां होती हैं, right? It's about what do you learn from those mistakes is what is important. And I've always been like मेरा सोच always अलग था to say that, you know, I don't need to take all the decisions. Let somebody else take the decision. We will go with it, right? And figure out if we fail together. If we succeed together, right? If you think कि हर एक idea मेरे से ही आना है, I think that's the biggest mistake people will do. You have to create a system where everybody is encouraged to bring a good idea out. And if we can try and implement it, we should try and implement it. And ज़्यादातर people, you know, they kind of miss out. the best ideas come from the customers themselves.
Yes.
वो खुद आके बोलते हैं कि यार ऐसा कर दिया तो अच्छा होता, right? I mean, some are
Feedback.
implementable, some are not. Feedback,
And rectification after that feedback.
Rectification, new idea, new project, right? So a lot of those things, actually, a lot of customers themselves will come and tell you, right? Because if someone's taking that pain, time, energy to come and experience the service that we are providing, which means they are already involved in what you're trying to do. So how do you kind of build from that, right? If someone genuinely has a value add to give, the best things actually come from customers.
So take feedback continuously.
Actively.
Okay.
You live by that.
Okay. So how has healthcare industry evolved in these days? अब हमने देखा है कि हम लोग बहुत सारे लोग वैसा भी बोलते हैं कि healthcare industry एक ऐसी industry है जो recession free है. And after COVID especially, we have seen boom in this industry. Everybody wants to jump into this industry and start a hospital. So आप इसको कैसे देखते हैं, मतलब ये कैसे evolve हो रही है industry?
Who can understand this sort of a philosophy? And look, there are increasingly a lot more doctors who want to be entrepreneurs, right? उनका खुद का वो करना चाहते हैं. So how do you kind of build around that sort of an intent, right? If somebody is a great clinician, how do you help them build an administrative, let's say workforce around it, so that you can encourage them to be a better clinician than what they are, while this entire organization grows, right? So healthcare in our country has always, there is government which plays a huge role.
Okay.
Government always used to have this role between saying कि मैं खुद hospitals चलाऊंगा, खुद hospitals खड़ा करूंगा, to now taking the Ayushman Bharat route to say that is my entire focus, कि I will be the best insurer.
Yes.
Right? So that honestly, Anubhav, over the last few years, this has changed the way healthcare is looked at in our country by the government deciding that this is the prima facie investment avenue of where government will spend a large part of its GDP towards healthcare, right?
Okay.
What does it mean? Is that to say that, everybody has a health cover today, right? Which means you have access to healthcare from a affordability point of view. If you need something as a surgery, you will have access to it, right? Where do you have access? We are continuously improving, right? So like I said, between metros to going deeper, there is constant improvement towards access of some of these things. If you look at how the intervention between when somebody needs to provide this sort of a healthcare experience, be it any form of surgery and all of that, what is the level of transparency that the country is operating with, right? Anyone looking to start in the healthcare space should look up this portal called PMJ dashboard.
Okay.
I'm telling you, world class hai, right? No country in the world can actually put up their entire statistics live.
Really?
For anyone as public access. It is fantastic.
Okay.
Right?
What is the website?
PMJAY dashboard.
Okay.
If you Google that, you'll get it.
Okay.
And just go on that link. It will tell you everything from a state-wise, kitne log kya speciality mein, what are the claims that they are undergoing, how many people have been insured, what is the turnaround time for the hospitals, because insurance business mein, once the patient has been admitted, procedure done and discharged, ज़्यादातर वो पैसा आने के लिए from the insurer takes a long time.
Long
right?
time, yes.
Even that has been made transparent to say कि claim का reimbursement कितने दिन में हुआ है. All of that. No country you will find this. Our country has done this, right? And nobody will tell you about it. So all these has happened over the last 5-10 years, right? When you see something like this, अभी क्या है, right? For people innovating in healthcare, there is the promise of volume. पहले ना ये everybody understand. I told you there are 51 babies being born. Everybody grows old. Everybody needs healthcare requirements. How do you even know how many are being accessed and serviced where? Right? If the government plays its role and they've built this beautiful transparent layer, now there is a promise of volume. You understand कि कितने लोग क्या specialities कहाँ से क्या कर रहे हैं, right? So for someone who wants to innovate in this, you have access to this data. In our country, finding data is the most difficult.
This is so much of data.
So much of data.
Of every state.
Transparent live, Baba. It's as live as it can get, right? It's just crazy. And this is just the beginning. It has not even reached the sort of avenue that it can. And it's just one, wo Ayushman Bharat wala scheme, ek scheme pe, right? If everybody starts collating information like this, we will be a powerhouse in terms of healthcare. This will be across pharma. This will be across personalized medicine. This will be across preventive healthcare. This will be about new age insurance companies coming to the fore and saying ki these are the gaps. Despite what others are doing, what can we kind of also come and deliver? It's just very, very, very deep in terms of what you can do, right? So in our country, I think healthcare is super exciting, right? So great place if someone's looking at healthcare to kind of build. Very, very good time to come in. Remember that it's a long game.
Okay.
ये 4 दिन में कुछ बैठेगा नहीं इसमें. You have to have a lot of deep sort of conviction कि ये this will take years to churn. But the beauty is if you are able to establish and if your genuine intent is to have and deliver good outcomes, you will survive and you will thrive and you will grow.
हमेशा एक हॉस्पिटल्स में ब्रांड कॉन्शियस रहता है लोगों के अंदर कि यार ये हॉस्पिटल बढ़िया है कि ये ज्यादा अच्छा है. वो भी बनाना और मेंटेन करना बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी रहता है. कई बार ऐसी हवा भी उड़ जाती है, मान लीजिए किसी को कुछ हो गया किसी हॉस्पिटल में, तो पीपल स्टार्टेड लुकिंग दैट हॉस्पिटल इन अ वे कि यार यहाँ पे शायद सेफ्टी इतनी नहीं रहेगी, तो वो दे स्विच अदर हॉस्पिटल्स. सो इसको ब्रांड मैनेजमेंट कैसे करते हैं? इट इज इट इम्पोर्टेंट?
It is very important. More than just building for one bad day where something like this happens. It's about how do you prevent that bad day, right? So a lot of them don't think about it as much. This is where process efficiency, all that comes about, right? So doctors are also humans, yaar. Kabhi they wouldn't have counseled something well enough, or they probably did not have the time to kind of, or did not think कि the risk that's associated with a particular procedure, वो जो अब family को explain करेंगे, maybe they did not understand it as well on the other side, right? So there are small things which can happen.
Yes.
But look, nobody likes a bad outcome, right? छोटा हो बड़ा हो, nobody likes a bad outcome. It's about saying कि how do you ensure that you take people along in the process is most important. So ज़्यादातर ऐसा होता नहीं है. A lot of doctors are extremely busy, right? So hospitals always have this opaque पर्दा layer to say कि यार हम जो कर रहे हैं बाकी आप देख लो, right? So
what is prevention? We try to prevent it कि ऐसा हो ही ना. Secondly, अगर ऐसा हो गया तो what is the third part? Do we go for the crisis management? क्या भी हम लोग को उसको बचाना कैसे?
You have to try. So look, the life part is anyway clinically whatever you're supposed to do, you have to do, right? But in terms of bad outcome, it's about saying what can we kind of learn from all of this together, and what can you do to support the family to say that okay, something like this happened. How much of it was something towards to say that as an ailment that somebody carried through, or was it something which was not discovered before, or something to say that certain times these things happen, right? How do you manage that situation is the most important, right? So I think some of these things, see, people are also wary of this, that sometimes in a fit of rage you will understand and say कि नहीं आपने गलती किया, ये किया, वो किया. But I think everybody also has to understand कि इसमें nobody can do this time and again. गलती करके nobody can get away with it, right?
Yes.
एक बार गलती हो गया, right? But it is also to understand that everybody did their best attempt to kind of do this, right? You can't have large institution where somebody does this repeatedly and gets away with it. ऐसा होता नहीं है, right? We're not a देश where you can kind of ऐसे चला के
we have seen couple of incidents, especially at the time of COVID, कि अगर मतलब people started beating doctors. बहुत गलत है. I mean उसको भी वो भी होता होगा, कभी कभार हो जाता होता ही है हॉस्पिटल इंडस्ट्री में. तो उसके लिए प्रिवेंटिव क्या रहता है कि do we call the cops immediately and everything is on the line again, or
we've seen a lot of unfortunate cases where in a fit of rage a lot of these things happen, right? And which is why I was telling you that it's difficult to put yourself in a position like that unless you've been there to kind of see how the mind reacts, right? But rage में आके ये करना, you're doing everybody a disservice, right? And see, the minute you kind of do that, you are limiting your avenue to kind of go deeper and understand कि problem हुआ था क्या, right? What was the problem that led to an unfortunate situation, right? ये fit of rage करके and all of those things, nobody is getting anything, right? It's like road rage, right? वो after you go hit a car or hit a bike, damage तो हो गया, right? Now you have to go back and say कि what can you do to prevent, or was it गलती at my end, the other end, what, right? So instead people keep yelling about कि ये damage हो गया, वो damage हो गया, right? So in healthcare it's obviously worse, sir. It's life, right? So obviously emotions run very high.
Yes.
But I think this is where as a country we have to grow up and say कि everybody did their best right? And that's when we have to start appreciating each other, to say that, you know, everybody did their best. Nobody does this कि नहीं मैंने तो हाफ अटेम्प्ट किया, and you know it doesn't work like that, right?
तो एक चीज और भी होती है रोहित भैया, कि जैसे कि किसी हॉस्पिटल में आदमी जाता है तो लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं कि बिकॉज पीपल लैक द इन्फॉर्म, दे डू नॉट नो अबाउट द प्रोसेस कि क्या क्या हॉस्पिटल्स में रहती है और क्या क्या चीज़ों की रिक्वायरमेंट रहती है. तो लोग ऐसा बोलते हैं कि जो एक्स्ट्रा बिल्स होते हैं कि इस चीज़ की रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं थी लेकिन लगा दिया. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अपनी इंडस्ट्री में मुझे जैसे बोलते हैं कि बेबी डिलीवरी बहुत नॉर्मल भी हो सकती थी, सीजर की जरूरत नहीं थी, तो अगर एड ऑन करने के लिए लोग ऐसा कर देते हैं, तो उसको कैसे काउंटर करते हैं?
यार ऐसे, that's what I said. See, 1-2 cases here and there, probably they can get away with it. Repeatedly ऐसे कर रहे होंगे तो you can't get away with it. यार, we are all, you can't think an average citizen in this country is a dumb fool, right? नहीं होता है. You can't put पर्दा on everybody and say ऐसा ही होता है. Everybody understands. So I think if there are people like that, they will just get caught out by the numbers itself. And those people have no right to kind of continue doing what they're doing, right? They have to be kind of counseled, they have to be kind of cornered and said that what they're doing is wrong. If, you know, which is where processes, efficiencies, all of these come by, right? So in large organizations, you will have a process where you are kind of going and looking at all these cases again and again and figuring out, you know, how many of these things were genuine, how many of these things were not genuine mein kaise, how do you kind of tackle all of these things, right? But see, as an individual, you will not have access to all this information.
Yes.
And this is where you have to go to larger institutions where you know processes, practices exist. And which is why you know that, you know, they work for you and not for overall, you know, just for the system to put a parda, right? So this is important. You have to go, everybody has to do their homework in terms of understanding if there is a healthcare requirement. You have to do your research in terms of saying quality of doctor, quality of infrastructure, quality of, you know, access to other sort of consulting, multidisciplinary wala and all of that, right?
That's where brand plays a major role to choose.
Brand happens eventually, na? You won't become a large brand the minute you put a board out there, right? You have to demonstrate this. And this is why I said it's a long, patient game. It's not something ki जैसे कि आज बोर्ड लगा दिया, टुमारो आई एम अ ट्रस्टेड ब्रांड, ये होता ही नहीं.
ये होता नहीं. वर्बल रेफरल भी बहुत चलती है ना भैया, कि आज मैं गया.
Word of mouth is the biggest asset that anybody in healthcare or any business, right?
Any business.
We keep talking about CAC, cost of acquisition. The best CAC is where you have to spend nothing. The
customers feedback will do.
Absolutely. Customers references will do.
Yes.
Right. I went to one of your stores and had a great, you know, chai to it was fantastic. I will tell 10 people about it, right? But you also have to know that if I don't like it, I will again tell people about it.
Yes.
It's about how do you kind of balance some of these things out, and you have to be aware of this, right? So word of mouth is the best. You have to encourage everybody to say what is it that you can do about something like this. In healthcare especially, it becomes very tricky. Nobody wants to talk about कि अगर कुछ surgery हुआ, you know, you won't come about and say कि यार मेरा कल surgery हुआ, right? You will only tell in your close quarters, but you don't go about announcing. But birth of a child is something you will tell the whole world, right? So that's where it becomes even more important कि how do you handle the experience,
yes,
right? And that's what we also learned. पहले से ही कि, you know, how do you ensure that everything that you do is as you know, clean and precise as possible, right? So ऐसे चलता है. You have to learn all this.
Okay, so एक बहुत ही सिंपल एंड शॉर्ट क्वेश्चन आई हैव इन माय माइंड कि एक किसी को हॉस्पिटल खोलना है तो उसको कितना पैसा लगता है खोलने में?
I don't have an answer to that. It has a lot of different. एक सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन था ही नहीं वो. It depends on specialities. It depends on where are they setting it up. It depends on how many number of beds they want to put. बहुत
सारी, मतलब
complicated.
Varies from place to place. Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so ठीक है, वो अपन हटा देते हैं. What is the return of the ROI which we can get? कब तक expect कर सकते हैं अगर आप, क्योंकि एक long run goal है. For example, we are investing X amount of money. So हम लोग कब तक उसका return assume कर सकते हैं? कब तक हमको मिल जाएगा?
You're asking me tough questions. So look, there is a people cost, there is a machine cost.
Okay.
Right? But typically, if you are able to kind of manage well, if you look at public companies today, right, everybody would be in the range of, let's say, 15 to 20% EBITDA.
Mm-hmm.
That is what you also have to think, that after all my processes and procedures, I will end up with a 15-20% EBITDA.
Okay.
Right? And that's a good benchmark to have.
Okay.
So which means in 5 years, you are able to kind of bring about, you know, whatever as the capital that you had put in 5 years, you should be able to recover your capital. And then after that, you start making profits as such.
Okay.
Right? In a simple vanilla math.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of people have to tell me ऐसा नहीं होता है, but yeah.
थोड़ा बहुत ऐसे ही होता है. So how a founder turned into an investor?
हाँ, तो little bit of backstory. So 2010 is when I graduated from IIM Bangalore.
And we will talk about the IIM Bangalore also, because IIM Bangalore is something which people really want, they really look into it. कि यार जो भी IIM Bangalore से निकलता है, IIM Ahmedabad से निकलता है, they have a tag in them. Like yes, they have a tag in them, and they get the funding very easily. They get recognized very easily, and they have a very good networks with them. They have very good finance knowledge with them. So we will dig deeper into it. But first, yes, the backstory of being an investor.
So no, exactly same thought कि बहुत कुछ आसानी से हो जाएगा, बिकॉज मैंने क्लासरूम में पढ़ा था. मेरा बिजनेस में ये सब दम है, तो आफ्टर आई ग्रेजुएट मैं दरवाजा खोलूंगा तो कैपिटल आ जाएगा. एग्जैक्टली दैट, बट ऑब्वियसली नथिंग लाइक दैट हैपेंड. सो दिस वाज 2010.
So Rohit MA bursting myth now of the IIMs. Yes, okay.
No, obviously it's evolved.
Okay.
But no, yaar, everything is
Rohit
about
is being diplomatic now.
Look, it's always about the merit of the idea that he or she is building upon, right?
But definitely, you must be getting something out of the IIMs.
No, I got a lot out of IIM.
Okay.
I actually sat in the classrooms of IIM working with my professors to build a scalable model, right? So I got a lot out of it. But see, the clarity that I had was we already had a business, we already had a running enterprise that, you know, wanted to scale, right? Most people don't, you know, kind of work on the idea either when they're studying or after they come back, after they graduate, after they work for a while. So there's no one answer ki aisa hona chahiye. With mine, it was very simple. I already had a business running. I was specializing in entrepreneurship. So I just knew that I'm going to go back.
Thought of clarity
was already there. So maybe it helped. But फिर भी, it took about a year and a half to even have ये बातें कैसे करते was it took like a year and a half, right? So 2010, if you can imagine, was when Flipkart had raised its first institutional round. You know, everybody were still kind of finding their place in terms of how venture investing will work. बहुत कम थे यार, in terms of, you know, where deals were happening, what people were coming about to grow, and I mean to set up and grow and all that. It was a very different time. आजकल की नहीं है, right? So this was a time where, you know, I had said कि यार इतना मुश्किल नहीं होना चाहिए. People should be able to at least say hello to a few folks whenever they kind of need it, right? मैंने सोचा था कि इस चीज में कुछ होगा ही नहीं, मुझे कुछ करना होगा इसके बारे में, ऐसा मैंने सोच के रखा था. But it took about a year and a half to have all these discussions, resulted in a few term sheets, and like I told you, Matrix was the first investor, and वहाँ से शुरू हुआ था. But ये मन ही मन में मेरा था कि यार I should also help as many entrepreneurs as possible, not necessarily from just a capital point of view, but at least whatever I have as learning, can I share that, right? Okay. So ऐसे सोच समझ के कर रहा था that in 2013-14 I was able to set up my first sort of incubator within Cloudnine, where I had a lot of product companies come and build alongside me. So I invited a few amazing product guys, because मैं खुद product नहीं बना सकता था, but I was always first about saying कि customers need to get the best of whatever they have, right? Whatever's around us. So had a lot of product companies come and build with me. बहुत अच्छा चला, but I had not taken any equity in any of them. So and some of them went on to become very good very soon. तो मैं सोचा कि मैं क्या miss कर रहा हूँ, right? And I was missing equity because I was not seeing the upside. So 2015 put together a small family fund and started investing through that. So my like my co-founder in Cloudnine, he invested, few friends invested, family invested, small corpus, but decided to start building from there and investing in a few founders that I had known. बहुत अच्छा चला, because this was the time where, you know, all the companies that you know today are all of that vintage, right?
It was
All the
2013.
13,
Okay.
15.
Okay, 2015.
15 say, right?
Uh-huh.
So all the ones who started in 2013, 14, 15 have gone on to do really, really well, right?
Mhm.
All the names that you think of, all the unicorns that you think of, pretty much half or more of them are all of that vintage, right?
Mhm.
So it was just the right opportunity to be there, kind of dwelling into something like this. So again, by chance it happened, was able to put some of this together, was able to grow the nice founder network. तो ये करते करते बहुत मजा आ रहा था while I was building up Cloudnine. So 2017 started working with a few funds, learning कि funds कैसे सोचते हैं, कि how do they invest and all of that, right?
Okay.
And 2019 I became a scout for Sequoia. So I was amongst 20 odd people who could write a check on behalf of Sequoia.
Okay.
So that was a very different program. बहुत मजा आया उसमें कि you know you go deeper and understand. And the minute you're responsible for 1 rupee of outside money, na, you suddenly start thinking, yaar, wo, you know, I have to think more and, you know, all of that.
You have to dig deep in it.
You have to kind of become better and all of that, right? So all of this led me to believe that in 21-22, when we decided as a team to take the company public in Cloudnine, I thought that this is the right time for me to also start focusing on saying, can I go set up a fund, right? So this is the journey to say that that's how Peer Capital was born. Took about a year to get the license and everything. So we're about a year old in terms of Peer Capital. But the idea was to say the entire entrepreneurial experience that I have. My partners are great at what they do. So the three of us together, what can we do to take discussion away from pure capital as a commodity was the primary motivation for all three of us to come and do this. So that's how we got started. And now I'm an investor. I'm still a founder at heart, but you know, I'm an investor now.
So what are the things you look while investing? I mean, कई लोग होंगे जो wanna be entrepreneurs will definitely reach out to you and will ask for the funding. So what are the things you look after in a founding team or एक founder के अंदर उनके product के अंदर क्या चीज़ आप देखते हैं? सबसे पहली चीज़ क्या होनी चाहिए?
First thing is the founder market fit, right? Ki what is the founders thinking about the market? What is their right to win, right? Ki why should he or she succeed in what they're trying to do, right? So just to understand ki what do they know in terms of getting this act together to deliver on that product or service that he or she is doing. It can be in the founders themselves. It can be in the founding team also. See, sometimes some founders are amazing team builders, right? So like I told you before, right? सारा idea इनका नहीं होना चाहिए और इनका it need not be. So how do you kind of put a team together who can also come up with great ideas, right? So somebody may be extremely good at capital raising, right? Somebody may be extremely good at storytelling. Somebody may be extremely good at building a team. So it's a lot of those factors also to understand कि ये करते कैसे, right? So that founder market fit is very important. Second is to say that product market fit. Ki when they are thinking of something, is this in an existing market or are they going to become category creators, right?
Okay.
How do you kind of think of some of these things? Both of them, the risk associated is very different. Category creation mein the risk is very, very, very profound, that to say that ये category बैठेगा भी नहीं. You don't even know. How do you kind of do this, right? In existing categories, if you have to become more efficient and drive more efficiency, you may not be the first ones to start, but you may be the fourth ones to start. How are you thinking about it differently, right? What is your edge to say that pehle jo shuru kiye the, I'm going to still be better than most of these guys, right? So it's again different that you kind of apply that lens. You also have to think of the size of the opportunity, right? To say, and you know this better than most people, that everything need not be VCable, yaar. So this is where a lot of founders go wrong to say कि यार VC money मैं raise कर दूँ ना, मैं ऐसा बना दूँगा कि यार that business needs to have its own two legs. VC money is just a catalyst.
Yes.
You can't build a business on VC money. I mean, a lot of people have, right? But that's not a golden rule कि ये कर दिया, if you raise VC money, you'll become successful. ऐसा होता नहीं, right? It's just a catalyst. You still need to have that business defined in such a way that they are able to make a profound margin. They are able to make a genuine sort of unit level economics where it can sustain, right? There are, in category creation, you'll have to take some of these punts at some time to say, you know, when you're building a category, monetization will probably happen a little later. It need not be evident from the word go. You may be, you know, in category creation, you have to own the mind space, right?
Yes.
तो ये सब करना भी जरूरी है. So it's very different in terms of the kind of filters that you apply. But I think as founders, one has to be very clear to understand कि यार everything need not be VCable, right? You have to be able to build strong businesses because you are building strong businesses, right? And the most important thing is, yaar, as investors, you have to go with your gut, right? Gut factor is very important, right? Iska definition nahi hota hai. You have to feel really good. You have to feel one with the founder to say कि ये कर लेंगे, right? कि they will get this done. You have to build over a time, right? Some build their gut factor basis the data they see. Some build the gut factor basis the founder interactions. Some build their gut factor looking at the market size. Okay. Opportunity kaise hai, right? But that gut factor is very important, right? Again, you can go severely wrong, you can be extremely right, but that is also very important. You have to feel great about making that investment.
कई लोग जब इन्वेस्टिंग में आते हैं रोहित भैया तो नए wannabe entrepreneurs की बात कर रहा हूँ. So they ask for the funding in the ideas itself.
Yeah.
How right and how wrong it is to ask, I mean, they just come up with an idea and they ask for the funding कि I have a great idea. So, कई बार ऐसे लोग रहते हैं कि अपने आइडिया से बहुत प्यार कर लेते हैं.
Yeah.
They work so much on it, they do not leave any room for the rectification in it.
Yeah.
So, how good and how great bad it is to ask funding on an idea, और क्या ये सच में funding करते हैं लोग आइडिया पे कि नहीं?
होता है. बहुत सारा होता है.
On the tags?
बहुत सारा होता है because see, there is merit to also, again, it depends on the kind of investor, right? So, for example, if someone's built something before, right? Just take your own example. Now, you've been fairly successful. Now, after this, you want to go try and do something, right? तो ये ज़्यादातर होता है. Like a lot of people, just on idea, will get a lot of capital chasing them, right? Repeat founders जो होते हैं उनका बहुत अच्छा होता है, right? That they've actually been able to demonstrate some of these outcomes.
They get funding very easily.
I don't know about easily, but they'll at least have interest, right? Funding interest hota hai. There are also some very smart programs like how do you go and find an entrepreneur very early, right? So like I don't want to take names, but somebody started building out of college, right? You can't tell them that it's a bad or a good idea, right? If somebody's still going after that idea, there are people willing to back them. There are programs today where a lot of good you call them pre-seed venture firms who actually encourage you to start thinking about these ideas in college itself.
Okay.
Right? So there are people who do this. There are funds who will actually look at the idea that you have, and they would have created an ecosystem to say, here's an idea that you have. Here are things that I can help you with to develop your idea into seeing fruition there, right? Isme hota kya? You have to think of investors also, right? When you catch an entrepreneur very early, with small amount of capital, you can actually get large amount of ownership.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's the risk-reward ratio that most people adjust for, right? That in this, mortality will be very high. Bahut sare idea will not, succeed. But when one or two succeed, right, the outcomes are fantastic. So which is why people also like that, right? So you will find a lot of people. It's a continuing practice. It's done really well in developed markets like the US and Europe, where early stage, very, very nascent ideas, people are happy to kind of back them. So unka DNA alag hota hai.
But there has to be some of the demonstration they have done in the past. Otherwise,
not necessary. Like everybody is not a 2x entrepreneur. You have to start somewhere. So you will get people who will believe that you can get it done. It's about getting both of that together to say that you will find investors who believe in you.
Again, it's about the gut feeling of the investor and the market size.
You have to have that.
Okay.
There are people, for example, so I gave you one example of people, starting up from colleges. There are people who've gone and, been part of good founding teams. There are people who've been part of the CXO team, right?
Okay.
So they bring that entire operator mindset. They know what they're doing. They have looked at careful gaps and avenues that they can start working upon, right? So you will also take that into merit to say ki, acha, these guys have seen some of these things happening.
Okay.
They are good guys to back because they know exactly what to build for, right? Aisa bhi hota hai. So there again, you don't have to wait for it to hit a certain stride. You will have people backing you for something like that, right? So bahut kuch aisa hota hai. So it's not ki paper-based ideas don't kind of get you funding. Bahut sare hota hai.
So once people raise money, what is the next step for the entrepreneurs? So people मतलब ऐसा लोग बोलते हैं जो लोग फंडिंग उठाते हैं या जो नहीं उठाते हैं उनको ऐसा डर रहता है कि यार बहुत ज्यादा एक्सट्रीम प्रेशर आ जाता है एंड कि हमने पैसे उठाए अब हमको उनको रिटर्न देना है. सो अगर वो एंटरप्रेन्योर बहुत क्रिएटिव है सो इवेंचुअली वो डेविएट हो जाता है अपने विजन से कि भाई वी आर क्रिएटिंग समथिंग. It's not just about the monetary purpose and not just about the returns. So is it something like that कि बहुत ज़्यादा pressure रहता है कि we investors audit very frequently and they ask for the reports, how's your growth is going on. Is it something like that? It is a personal question from me.
No, of course you will get asked questions,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's not just about the quantum of money.
Mhm.
Like I told you, even when you take a single rupee, right? You grow a conscious, right? You have to stay true to the fact that, you know, somebody's taken that leap of faith on you and given you that capital. You always have to do good by them, right? See, genuine attempts, you tried, wo business fit nahi hua, and, you know, you weren't able to kind of make good on that investment, which is okay. But saying कि बहुत pressure डालते हैं यार ये लोग, question पूछते हैं, it is a right of every investor to kind of ask those questions.
पैसे दिए भाई.
पैसे तो दिए हुए. I'm not saying from a rude or, you know, intrusive manner.
But this is what happens.
I mean, so you are also taking capital because you believe कि this investor can also do something good for you beyond just capital, right? सिर्फ पैसे लेने तो बैंक से ले लो, right? So why do you need VC capital to say that okay, सिर्फ पैसा देके आप question मत पूछो?
So what are the perks and founder gets?
You'll grow a fantastic network.
Okay.
Good funds give you a lot of access to a lot of avenues. From being able to hire great people, from being able to have great mentorship access, also sharing a lot of learnings. See, going to a good fund where they've got a good portfolio, a lot of learning is in the system. So they'll actually be able to translate a lot of those to you to say, you know, how do you kind of build it the right way. In entrepreneurship, look, speed is everything.
Yes.
Now, you can go discover all routes by yourself. Or if somebody is able to tell you that, listen, 4 of these guys already figured out कि ऐसे नहीं करते, ऐसे करते हैं. You will benefit from it.
Yes.
So that's what great funds can do. Absolutely. That's what great funds can do, right? So you will always have better access to a lot of information and your chances for success will always be higher.
Okay.
So you have to think about it that way. It's just not about capital. Capital दिए होते तो भी, right? You have to demonstrate that you're good for that capital. And see, all this process and all that, everybody wants every company to become big, right? You can't invent processes and stuff only when you're big. छोटे से ही शुरू होता है. So the smaller you are, the better processes you're able to implement. You will be able to scale faster. That's what most VCs, most fund managers, most funds will also instill upon, that discipline. That is important.
और एक बहुत ही fascinating term है हमारे entrepreneurship domain में, that is IPO. It's a dream, I mean, for people, even for me. Personally speaking, तो IPO file करने के लिए what are the challenges and what are the process you have to go with it? खाते में कितने पैसे होने चाहिए, कितना बड़ा आपका empire होना चाहिए, all that. So just a glimpse about an IPO filing.
So
a dream on IPO filing, because हमने अभी बहुत सारे IPO देखे जो big companies have launched into the premium and then मतलब काफी उनके शेयर वैल्यूज कम हो गए. सो ऐसे ड्रीम आईपीओ लॉन्च करने के लिए व्हाट आर द प्लान्स? आई मीन आई एम रियली एक्साइटेड.
You're asking a very tough question again. If anybody could know how markets react, then you know they will be the kingpins, right?
Yes.
So ऐसा तो होता नहीं. So look, I think there are 2-3 things, right? Everybody has this feeling कि, you know, you have to be of a large size to go and become a public company, right? It's actually not true. One has to go and figure out, there are actually indexes, right? There is a large cap, there's a mid cap, there's a small cap. Small cap में यार people at even 50 crores of revenue can go and list, boss. ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं to say that you have to have 5,000 crores of revenue. If you want to be a public company, you have to demonstrate processes of the highest order.
Okay.
What will you get tested on, right? Across small cap, mid cap, large cap, is there is an independent regulator called SEBI who will stress test you on all the processes that you have. Ki how much of your revenue is real, how much of it, see, the minute you become a public market, the regulator's right is to protect the interest of every single shareholder,
yes.
right? So what that means is every single rupee that you kind of raise from a public market, SEBI takes the sort of responsibility to say that this guy is good to even take that 1 rupee of money, right? You have to demonstrate that. So to demonstrate that is not very easy, right? So you have to have, like we just spoke, the smaller you are, if you've kind of made a lot of these processes very, very intact, because nobody can stop you from going to this, right? Quarterly, your disclosures have to be so sacrosanct that, you know, VC jo puchte hai, wo kuch bhi nahi hai, right? This is like much, much better, right? Much more.
Thousands of investors, VC sitting in the SEBI. It's like that. कि हजार investor का एक SEBI है.
Yes.
जो questions आपसे पूछेगा.
Absolutely. And look, the biggest reality is the market, right? So market is a clear reflection, right? So beyond what the business is able to deliver as result, something else may happen somewhere else which may determine your share price. You don't know that. And that is the mystery of the entire, you know, market as a whole, right? So you have to do what you have to do in terms of saying that quarter on quarter, you are building up an expectation to the shareholder to say, ki, this is what I can deliver to you. How true will you be to deliver? That is the most important. You can be, again, like small, mid, high, large cap. You can be any of those things. Everybody works on the same discipline and principle to say that, you know, this is what we need. Unfortunately, in our country, we still haven't developed that sort of a flair to say that, you know, even if it's a massively loss-making company, like what happens in the US and other markets where, you know, somebody can go list on a song also, right? Ki main ye song chala raha hu, ye song super hit ho jayega, I want to be a public company, right? I mean, not as simple as that, but यहाँ पे we are very, very fast about saying कि boss तो पैसा बना रहा है कि नहीं बना रहा है, right? A lot of people did that, right? Again, don't want to take names. People went in, got corrected by the market to say कि boss, show us how you'll be able to make money, right? And the market, like I told you, is a true test. Whatever you go say, you have to demonstrate. That is how you will start building trust in the market, right? So as an IPO process, IPO, you have to remember, for founders, is just another milestone. It's not ki, you know, finish line,
Yes.
you know, now you go sit and relax.
Yes.
It is a very important milestone. It is actually to say that you are building a company of the highest quality, which means this is another starting stone, right? That you have to again start the marathon. So it's not like ho gaya, chalo abhi baithte hai. It's like, you know, it's a really strong journey that you're starting towards, right? So that is what an IPO process is.
Okay. So we have learned so many things currently, and अभी एक चीज और भी है कि you have been doing business from decades together, and there are n number of learnings which we want from your side to be. So आप please हमारे ऑडियंस को बताइए कि क्या क्या चीज़, एक जब भी आप बिजनेस करते हो स्पेशली हेल्थ केयर में या फिर किसी भी डोमेन में, तो इस चीज़ का ध्यान रखना चाहिए, बिकॉज बीइंग एन VC एंड बीइंग एंटरप्रेन्योर योरसेल्फ, यू हैव सीन बोथ द पार्ट्स, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का भी और फंडिंग का भी. तो वो भी चीज़ एक थोड़ा सा क्रिस्प करके आप हमारे ऑडियंस को बता दीजिए.
कुल मिलके यार एक ही क्वेश्चन यू हैव टू आंसर, हु इज योर कस्टमर? As simple as that, right? If you are speaking to investors, investor is a customer. You have to understand ki what will get them excited is what you have to kind of demonstrate. The paying customer, you have to understand why will he or she pay for your product or a service, right? Ye aap jaan ke na, if you are able to build a business around it, this is what you really need. Don't think of yourself as a customer and say ki because I like it, I want to build it, right? It works, not all the time. But you have to really find out ki who is the customer, why would they want something like this, right?
Agreed.
It becomes extremely tough when you're a category creator, because then you have to go and tell people why they need something like this, right? Like a global example is Apple. Nobody told them ki yaar ye aisa touch phone banao, right? When the world was happy with a, you know, keypad phone, nobody said ki touch phone are needed. They came and disrupted, right? So they created that category, right? So sometimes you also need to take those bold moves, but you have to understand ki who's your customer, where is the need, kahan se aayega, kya, what is that clarity? Ultimately you have to answer this, and this question ka answer na har ek stage pe change hota hai, har ek jagah pe change hota hai. So this is something you have to continuously keep going after, say who is your customer. This will give you all the answers.
So identifying TG is very important.
TG
and what they need.
What you need to deliver is what you need to kind of figure out. Like I said, it changes, the answer changes in every stage. It's not to say ki always about what, you know, your paying customer is. Like I said, in a discussion where an investor is involved, you have to think of investor as the customer. What do you want to convert that customer, right? Ki what would they want to see? you have to always put that lens. You have to clearly understand who is your customer. In every phase of life, who's your customer, you'll have all your answers.
And how do you manage your personal and professional life? Because it is very important nowadays. I mean, people are living messy life. Either they are working 24/7 or ऐसा भी होता है कई बार कि कुछ काम ही नहीं कर रहे, पड़े हुए हैं घर पे. So how do you manage all these things?
Yeah, it's honestly very tough. You need to have a very supporting family, right? Who understands that entrepreneurship में switch off button नहीं होता है.
And right? It's not that easy.
It's not easy, right?
It's not a fairy tale.
I mean, fairy tale
बनने के बाद में.
Yeah, it's fairy tale is like again another milestone, right? वहाँ तक भी चढ़ना है. So you have to have a very supporting family, right?
Okay.
It may be your spouse, it may be your parents, it may be your siblings, it may be your children, but you need to kind of take everybody along that, you know, this is something that everybody signed up for and what it means on personal life, right? And what it can actually kind of mean from what is it that they all have to give up on or what is it that everybody gets, right? So I think that is very important. I also learned this the hard way. You know, I'm a workaholic. So, you know, and you ask my wife, she'll tell you more. But
I can ask for another chair.
So when it's like that, and most entrepreneurs are like that, right? So you're thinking about it 24/7. Now, when you do some of these things all the time, you know, you kind of also put everything else as secondary. So it's also about different stages in life. You also have to prioritize health. You have to prioritize family. You have to prioritize a lot of these things, right? Like I had written about stuff where in the first 2 years of my son's life, I missed because I was so busy building up. I know I really, really missed all of those things, right? Then I wrote about it to say that, you know, he won't remember, but because I also don't remember about all those things. Itna busy tha main. But wo chance bar nahi aata hai. So suddenly after when you're like, I'm 42, now I can't say, you know, yaar, I missed that stage.
You have to prioritize.
You have to kind of prioritize, right? But it's easy to tell.
Yes.
One has to kind of go over it because how will you say, yaar, main Sunday meeting nahi aa raha hu, right? So these are all, you know, it's a privilege you have to kind of earn, right? So I think entrepreneurship is hard. Right?
It is hard.
But the best of them also kind of know how to balance some of these things out, right? And that's where you build a strong team. That's where you build some of these things to kind of say that, you know, collectively we're all continue to grow. We continue to grow. And it's not about that individual growth, right? Because individually will just get consumed, right? So that's really how I've also kind of built. I've always had a very strong team, a team much, much smarter than me. That's what enables your growth as well, right? So if at all anything, to all entrepreneurs, I would encourage them to build a very strong team.
Okay. And what is success for you as a person and for a business? What is success for you?
For me individually?
Yes, for individually as well and for as a company, for an organization.
For an organization, I think if it becomes a legacy, that if it becomes an institution, that it doesn't need the entrepreneur anymore, I think that's a success.
Okay.
Right? Individually, as a success, it can be many different things. It can be, again, to see that, you know, here's a business that you build that you don't need to be a part of and it will continue to grow. That's probably success, right? Not everything can be defined as a monetary outcome. It's also about some of these things, right? That you created something to stand the test of time. That's probably success.
So here's Rohit Bhaiya for all of you, and thank you, Rohit Bhaiya, for coming and sparing time and giving the unimaginable insights. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.